Hello, my name is Mrs Andriesen, and I teach language arts in the middle school. My presentation is going to be on writing poetry from pictures that you can find on your smartphone. Let me share my screen here. So the first thing that you can do with this idea is to pick a theme, because you probably have a ton of photographs on your phone, and which one do you pick to write a poem from? So sometimes it helps to narrow the focus. So I was trying to think of different themes for April. There's Earth Day in April. It's renewing with springtime, giving, maybe being creative after the long winter, maybe a theme of family. So I brainstormed a couple of these. So you could do it one of two ways. You could think of a theme and then hunt for a picture that way, or you could find a picture that you really like and then go back and decide which theme you think it works best for. I kind of did it both ways in my example. So I went through my phone, and this is a picture of my daughter, Lydia, who got to be the co-pilot in a seaplanes flight that we did recently. And I thought it was a cute picture. She was pretty excited to be up there. I just hope she didn't touch anything. And but I couldn't really think of a theme to go with it. So I kept hunting on my phone. And then I found this picture when we visited my daughter Madeline up in Fairbanks. They had the ice sculptures there, and it reminded me, they kind of acted like kids in an amusement park and going around, and there was different sculptures that you could sit on and interact with. And I thought that would be kind of a fun thing to describe as a poem, with the theme of maybe family. And with the cold and the colors, you could probably get pretty creative with your language for that. But I wasn't like totally into that, so I kept looking. And when we were traveling back through Juneau, it was exciting to be in a mall after not going into a lot of stores during the pandemic. And as I was walking through the Nugget Mall, they had this amazing sculpture made of aluminum of kind of the bare bones of a Tlingit canoe. And I've always been like really fascinated with Tlingit art. I just think it's beautiful and utilitarian, and just the design of it. And then I was reading the artist statement to it, and I was really struck by it, after everything our country has gone through and been so polarized. And they were talking about, of course, the usefulness of canoes and the importance of them, and then of everyone working together when you do subsistence food gathering, of everyone having to work together, and of how with the government of being set up as the Tlingit and the Raven. And I was struck because next to it, they had the artist statement. And I was really struck by this quote, that the artist said: there were conflicts, but the requirement was to always engage, uphold, and take great care of your opposites with the utmost respect, ensuring that people are always progressing for the collective good of humanity. And so I almost picked this one because I thought it would be like a real serious writing, but I didn't see it as a poem. You could do it as a paragraph. This technique doesn't just have to be for poetry, but I was in the mood for more kind of a fun poem. And it was Easter time, and my daughter is a senior. And I was thinking like, oh no, is this like the last time that we might do Easter stuff together for a while? As she goes off to school next year. So we decided to dye Easter eggs. And when you have an adult child and access to Pinterest, you can get pretty creative in the different things that you did. So we looked up different kinds of ways to dye eggs, to get creative that way. And this was one of my eggs that I did. It was really cool that you put baking soda, that you had the dye all in, and you painted on there, and you poured vinegar on it, and it just like fizzed like a volcano and modeled all the colors on it. And so there was a couple other techniques that we did. So the next step is, once you have your picture, think of what memory, because really like a photo a day is kind of like a memory of what happened during that day. And I get really intimidated by writing poetry sometimes. So I always do all kinds of tricks I can think of how do I write poetry easily. And one of my favorite ways is to start off with prose, to start off with a paragraph. So that's what I did here. I'll just read it out loud. I've been dyeing eggs since I was a child and with my own children. We hadn't done it in years. As kids, we blew out the eggs by poking a hole in each end, scrambling in the oak and blowing out the contents to get a fragile empty shell instead of hard boiling them. Now we didn't have to hard boil them and only keep them until they got rotten or eaten. Pinterest inspired us with new ideas for Easter egg dyeing, volcano eggs, galaxy designs, where you put oil and water together with the dye and it makes interesting designs on it. Dyeing rice and shaking the eggs in there, it gives kind of a cool speckle. When you have adult children, things get more creative. We coated them in Mod Podge to strengthen the shell. And so then the next step that you would do after you've kind of written up, and it doesn't even have to be that great, it can just be pretty rough. I did not spend a lot of time writing the paragraph here, is now you want to break it up and make it just look like a poem. And I basically just like, how long should that line be? Maybe about this long, kind of make them about the same, and just hit return for each like half sentence or phrase that was in it. And so then I had something looked like this. It was more straight. And then the next step that you go through is kind of editing it. Now you have to make it sound like a poem. What are some language that I could add that's more descriptive? Or what could I cut in it? Because poetry doesn't have like every single word that you might have. You kind of just give a few words so that the reader kind of gets an idea and they can put in their own images and thoughts on what is going on. And then if you have younger kids, you know, you don't have to do even that long, even just writing 3 sentences or transcribing if they're kindergarten or first grade, is having them tell you 3 sentences and you can write those. And then you could even cut them out on pieces of paper and have them move the words around and cut things down. And so then I started to make it more into a poem. And this is pretty small, so I'm actually going to go to a different document so you can read it better. All right, call this Easter egg dyeing in each childhood generation. As kids, we blew out eggs, poking a hole in each end, scrambling the yolk, hard breath to get a fragile empty shell. A longer shelf life than hard boiled. Pinterest inspires grown-up children today with new ideas for Easter egg dyeing, vinegary volcano eggs fizz, oil and water swirl into galaxy designs, dyed rice shaken not stirred, making muted speckles. Adult children are creative, still indulging in youthful pastimes and bringing a new twist to fill the Easter basket. And then even as every time I read it, you can read it over a couple times, you can see like, what else could I tweak? And I was thinking this has got a little wordy. Scrambling the yolk, hard breath, fragile empty shell, longer shelf life. Maybe I do need that a longer shelf life than hard boiled, a longer shelf life than hard boiled. You know, sometimes when you read over sentences, lines, especially if you haven't seen them for a couple days, you're like, I really like how that sounds and what could I fix? This maybe should be on its own line. As kids, we blew out the eggs, poking a hole in each end, scrambling the yolk, hard breath, fragile empty shell, longer shelf life than hard boiled. Maybe I don't need the A. And then also I was thinking maybe I want to separate this, my James Bond illusion here, shaken not stirred, is maybe put a dash. Right, and then you have a cute little poem that encapsulates a little memory that goes with that picture. I hope you try it out. Thank you.